All right, guys, be together. I'm going to start us off with a couple quotes. All right, here's two quotes for you to consider, okay? Here's the first one. Cruel persecutions and intolerance are not accidents, but grow out of the very essence of religion, namely its absolute claims. That was written by Morris Raphael Cohen. Walter Koenig said this: religious tolerance, being tolerant of other religions, is something we should all practice. However, there have been more persecution and atrocities committed in the name of religion and religious freedom than anything else. Here's what we're talking about tonight. Isn't it wrong to insist that you're the only right one? Isn't that wrong? If you talk to people about Christianity and their objections to Christianity, one of the biggest objections people have is the exclusivist claims. Exclusive meaning everyone else is wrong, I'm right. Because it seems like pretty straightforward logic to say, if Christianity is true, then Islam is wrong. And Buddhism is wrong. Hinduism is wrong. And people who object to Christianity will often say, that's not fair. That's intolerant. Not only that, that's arrogant. How can you possibly claim that all these other religions in the world are wrong and you're the only right one? And then here's the secondary problem with this. And you saw it in one of the quotes. The perception is, when you make absolute claims like that, when you say everyone else is wrong and I alone am right, and you believe that's true, what's going to happen when you get power? You're going to do your best to silence all those people you think are wrong. And you're going to oppress all those people you think are wrong. And so the objection is this: Christianity cannot be right because it makes exclusivist claims. It says they are right, everyone else is wrong. And the problem with that is, number one, it's arrogant. The problem with that, number two, is that if that's your belief, if you think you're right and everyone else is wrong, then you're going to do your best to convince all those other wrong people that they're wrong, and you're going to do your best to shut them up. And if you get any kind of political power, you are going to try and silence them and oppress them. And so in that way, religion leads to intolerance and therefore is wrong. In essence, let me read you that quote again, because you're going to see the logic is that the problem with religion is that they claim to have absolute truth, right? Let me read this quote one more time. It says this: cruel persecutions and intolerance are not accidents, but grow out of the very essence of religion, namely its absolute claims, right? So what's wrong with religion, including Christianity? That it claims absolute truth. And because it claims absolute truth, it becomes intolerant and persecutes other religions and other people. Okay? So you guys see the problem? You see the objection to Christianity that is raised by people? So how do we respond to this? How do I as a Christian respond to this? I want to give you some thoughts on this, but I also want to present this in such a way, my hope is that you could present some of these answers to others. And this, we're calling this series Convince Me, because if you're here and this is your objection to Christianity, I hope to give you an answer that's good enough that will help you realize that actually this isn't a great objection to Christianity as well. So I'm going to talk about 4 different points that answer this, okay? So point number 1, truth by its very nature is exclusive. All truth is exclusive. Here's what I mean. What does 2 plus 2 equal?
6. 21.
You are right. It equals 7. Because 2 plus 2 equals 7. No, just kidding. Okay. 2 plus 2 equals 4, right? We all know that. Now, if 2 plus 2 equals 4, that means it does not equal 3, or 7, or 289, right? That is so intolerant of you. How can you claim that 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 3? How can you reject all the people in the world who say 2 plus 2 equals 3?
Fingers.
So arrogant of you to say that they're all right. I'm kind of joking around, but I'm getting at the fact that all truth by its very nature is exclusive. To say something is true is to automatically be saying that everything else is wrong. If 2 plus 2 equals 4, if you say that's true, then you are saying 2 plus 2 does not equal 3, does not equal 7, does not equal 19, right? You're saying all these other things are wrong. To make a truth claim of any kind is actually an absolute claim. And truth by its very nature is exclusive. All right, here's the second problem, okay? So problem number 1, all truth is exclusive by its very nature. Here's problem number 2. To say that what's dangerous about religions is that they make absolute claims, and you shouldn't do that. is actually self-refuting. What I mean by self-refuting is it cuts off the branch that it's sitting on. It doesn't actually work logically. Here's what I mean. To say all absolute claims are wrong is an absolute claim. Does that make sense? Let me read you that quote one more time, and I want you to hear and listen for the absolute claim, okay? Cruel persecutions and intolerance are not accidents, but grow out of the very essence of religion, namely its absolute claims. I don't know if this person realized it, but whoever wrote that is making an absolute claim. They're saying all religions are intolerant because of their absolutes. And my question would be back, is that absolutely true? Because if it is, you're making an absolute claim. And what if this person had power? What would they do with it? Read between the lines. It looks like they don't want any religion at all. And then if they had power, they might use that power to say, no religions of any kind. That doesn't sound like we welcome everyone. That sounds like its own form of exclusivity. So that's problem number 2, okay? It's ultimately self-refuting to say, there is no absolute truth. Because that is an absolute claim, right? We talked about this at Substitute Camp this summer, if you were there. All right, so it's at this point where people kind of switch tracks. They're like, okay, that's not working. Let's try something else. Let's say that we all have a piece of the truth, right? We all have a piece of the truth. We're all right, okay? The Buddhists are right, and the Christians are right, and the Hindus are right. We're all right. We all have a little piece of the truth. And the illustration I've heard of this, there's several different illustrations, but one is like, it's like we're all climbing this mountain to God, okay? And the Buddhists have their own trail. Maybe on the other side of the mountain you can't see. And you Christians, you have your trail. And all you can see is your trail and the top of the mountain, and you're heading that way. But you can't see that just around the southern side of the mountain, there's another trail, and that's Hinduism. And you can't see that just past that, there's another trail. Does that make sense? And so some people argue, well, actually, we all have a piece of the truth. Now, there's a different set of problems with that, okay? So problem number 3 is this. That's a religious claim. And it's a religious claim that's in contrast to other religious claims. Here's what I mean. If you say we're all actually right, we all have a piece of the truth, you may not realize it, but you are saying Hinduism's right. You're actually saying one of those religions out there is right. Let me read to you a quote by a Hindu. Swami Vivekananda says this: I am a Hindu. I am proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. In other words, we accept everyone. We believe not only in universal toleration, but we accept all religions as true. Okay, so within some branches of Hinduism is the belief that all religions are true. Now, if you think about it for a minute, this makes perfect sense, because Hinduism is a polytheistic religion. They believe there are many gods and many ways to worship those many gods. So if that's what you believe, it's pretty easy to just put the God of the Bible on the shelf next to all your other hundreds of gods. And you can take the God of the Muslims as well. Stick Allah on there as well. Sure, we can accept Allah and Jehovah on our little shelf of hundreds of gods, right? But here's my point. Okay, that is a religious claim. To say Hinduism is right is a religious claim. And here's the bigger problem with that, though. Okay? To say that all religions are right doesn't work logically. So let me give you some examples, okay? John 14:6. Here's what Jesus said. Jesus said this: I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. All right, quick question. Did you say, I am a way to God? I am a path up the mountain to God. And there are other paths that you can take. No, Jesus didn't say that. He said, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So here's the problem, okay? If it's true that all religions are right, then Jesus was wrong. Okay? And that's problematic, because if you say all religions are right, you're actually saying Christianity is wrong. Because at its core, Christianity teaches that Jesus is the only way to God. So if Jesus is not the only way to God, then Christianity is wrong. Now here's another problem, okay? If you say all religions are right, you're saying, okay, yeah, sure, Hinduism's right, Christianity's right, okay? Here's another problem. Islam. The foundation of Islam is that Christians got it wrong. That the Christian scriptures were messed up. And that's why the angel Gabriel had to appear to Muhammad in this cave and give him the true revelations from God. So Islam is built on the foundation that Christianity was close but got corrupted, and now Muhammad, God's prophet, has fixed it. Okay? If Christianity is right, then Islam is wrong, right? Because Islam is founded on the idea that Christianity is wrong, and it's fixing it. Okay, so here's the problem. To say all religions are right is actually to say that they're all wrong. Christianity is wrong because Jesus is only a way. Islam is wrong because actually Christianity is right? Does that make sense? It actually doesn't even make any sense. Here's another problem with this, okay? Let's go back to that story, okay? A Hindu person who believes in multiple gods says we're all climbing up these different paths of the mountain. Okay, so here's the idea, right? There's one mountain, we're all climbing this mountain. Hinduism is one way, Buddhism is another way, Christianity is another way, okay? Here's the problem. What's at the top of the mountain?
The truth.
Okay, the truth. God might be up there, but here's the question, okay? Is there one God at the top of the mountain? Is there a Trinity at the top of the mountain, like Christians claim? Father, Son, and Holy Spirit existing forever in one God? Is there Allah at the top of the mountain? The Buddhists say there is no God. Is there no God at the top of the mountain? Okay, what's at the top of this mountain? Is there one God? Are there hundreds of gods, or is there no God? Those cannot all be true in the same way, right? If you say we're all climbing this mountain, like what's at the top? Is there a God there or not? And if so, what kind of God is he? Is there one? Is there a bunch of them? And here's the final problem with this view. It's actually extremely arrogant. Because it says, hey, you billions of people who follow Christianity, you have a piece of the truth. You have a way to God. And hey, all you Muslims throughout the world, you have a piece of the truth too. But I, the person with the Hindu perspective who says all religions are right, I have the whole truth. Right? All you can see is your little path up the mountain. But I see the whole mountain. And I can see that there's this path and this path and this path. You only have a little piece of the truth, I have the whole truth. That's what the person is saying if you analyze it. It's actually extremely arrogant. To say all religions are right is actually to say, I have this perspective that you don't have. I can see way more than you can. And you just have a little tiny piece of the truth, but I have the whole truth. Do you see how that's actually extremely arrogant and dismisses the majority of the world religions? So where does this leave us, okay? What we talked about in the start is that the problem is that people say to make absolute claims means you're going to be cruel and exclusive of people and push people away and be rude. And what I've been trying to make the case is that you can't get away actually from absolute claims. That truth by its very nature is exclusive. To say something is right is to say that everything else is wrong. So where does this leave us? Are we just forced to be mean, exclusivist people? I don't think so. I think there's actually a way out of that problem. First of all, the way forward is this. To examine the various exclusivist claims that are out there. Okay? Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Muhammad says, the Bible is full of errors and was corrupted. We looked at why that's probably not the case last week. So one way forward is to investigate the various truth claims. You don't get out of this by saying, it doesn't matter, or we're all right. Like, that doesn't make sense logically. That's what we just saw. So how do you move forward? You investigate the various truth claims. If you're not convinced Christianity is true, that's okay. What else do you need to investigate to find out if it is true? And investigate that. Look into it. Research it. Write a question on a question card, put it in the questions and answer box, and we'll talk about it. But secondly, here's the biggest point I want to say. Also, look at the nature of those truth claims, okay? There's some pretty scary verses in the Quran, like, kill the infidel. If someone doesn't follow Islam, kill them. Now, to be fair, different Muslims interpret those verses in different ways because of other verses in the Quran. But some Muslims interpret that very straightforwardly as, kill the infidel. Now, if that is an absolute claim that you center your religious life on, that probably will lead to some violence and oppression. But compare that to the person at the center of Christianity, Jesus, who said, love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you. That's an absolute claim as well. But I don't think if you center your life on that, you're going to become a cruel, oppressive person. If you center your life on Jesus, who said, love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you, you're not going to end up being a jerk who oppresses other people, because you're praying for them and seeking to honor them. Here's what C.S. Lewis said. He said this: Christianity, if it's false, is of no importance, and if true, of infinite importance. The only thing it cannot be is moderately important. Right? Christianity, if false, is of no importance. You should ignore it and move on with your life. If it is true, it's of infinite importance, and you should center your life on it. And the only thing it cannot be is just like, oh yeah, whatever, it's like soccer. Okay? That makes no sense at all to live that way. And so here's my encouragement to you, okay? If you've been coming, you have questions, you're not convinced that Christianity is true, that's okay. We call the series Convince Me, but the heart behind it was not to convince you to become a Christian if you weren't one yet, or to convince you in a way that answers every single question you have. What I wanted to convince you of is that Christianity is plausible, that it could actually be true, and that there are good, solid, intellectual answers to many of the biggest questions about Christianity. That's what I wanted to convince you of. Now, maybe you're not totally convinced it's true, but I would want you to consider and ask yourself, what would it take to convince you it is true? And then research that thing. And if you are already convinced that Christianity is true, here's your application, okay? Do not treat this like an extracurricular activity, because it's not. Jesus is not a hobby. If Jesus really is who he said he was, if he really did rise from the dead like we looked at last week, then he really is Lord of the entire world. And we owe him our allegiance, our hearts, and ultimately our lives, not just a little bit of fun. He deserves all of it.